Hey everyone, welcome back to my talks on intervals. And this time I'm going to discuss the whole step. Last time we talked about the half step, which on the guitar fretboard was just one fret spacing basically from any one note to the next adjacent fret on the same string. Gives us that half step. In a harmonized way, you hear the sound that goes. It's very dissonant and creates kind of a clashing feel. With the whole step, that dissonance is still there, but it's not quite as bad. And again, in the context of, let's say, a larger chord, where you have those same two notes, it actually sounds very beautiful, and it has a much more flowing feel to it. So, it depends on the context, whether the dissonance is, how effective it is at wanting to pull towards a different note or chord. So the whole step, just as a way of explanation, is basically sort of your first neutral step. And what I mean by neutral is from a point of origin, the step really is a directional shift. It doesn't provide that sense of pull of wanting to go somewhere else right away. You can either go up, higher in pitch further from that, or back down. It's sort of up to the player or the listener where that goes. And you're going to find that the whole step is basically your most prevalent and utilitarian move or interval that you'll find within scales and how scales are built. Most scales you're going to find are built from combinations of half steps and whole steps. And the whole step really is sort of your neutral utilitarian shift from any given note. It provides direction, but not a sense of pulling strongly towards the next note. And that's kind of where the half steps come in. And the placement of half steps within that context in different places provides the different feels that you get from all the different scales. So we'll get into that more later. At any rate, so when we look at a whole step in a harmonized context, when you have two notes played together, again, I'll use this same two that I use with the chord. I'll play it one at a time. Now, I'm only fretting one note, but the note that normally if you go up two frets on the G string, you have this note B, but B is also the same exact tone that you get with the next, your second string. So you can do the same move with a second fret on the G string to the open B string, and you're going to get a whole step. That's kind of a confusing thing for a lot of beginners because when you start to use your open strings for scale moves and intervals, it's almost counterintuitive the way it looks, because I'm starting here and yet my next higher pitch is basically down, which most of the time on the fretboard, when you go down, you're going lower in pitch. So it's good to kind of get used to that idea. Let's even starting here on the third fret of the low E string, and when I'm going up to the next open string, that's my whole step, the A string. Although right now I'm tuned much lower, but I'm going to call the strings and the notes the same as if I was in standard tuning, by the way. And I get the same sound if I go up two frets than just from here to the next open string. And that is the case between all adjacent sets of strings, except for the second and third strings, the B and the G strings, where you have to go down on one fret to get that same move. And that's just because the way the guitar is tuned, you have to make that shift. The B string is tuned slightly differently than the rest of the strings in a standard tuning manner. Now, if you got altered tunings, that goes out the door. I'm just talking about standard tuning right now. In a melodic context where notes are played more linearly or one at a time, if I keep going up, I'm just going up a series of whole steps. And that 2-fret span up or down applies anywhere on the neck, pretty much. You're going to get the same thing. So, again, melodically, you just don't find that pull to want to go either up or down from that shift. So it's a really interesting element to look at. In terms of geometric layouts or just visualizing on the fretboard, you've got what I talked about with the open strings, but then we can look at it two different ways. We've already looked at the 2-fret span as being your basic move, and that's the same all over the fretboard. But when you start to cross strings or in between strings, you're going to get something a little bit different. Let's say that I go to the 12th fret E string on the low E string, and if I want to go up a whole step from there, then the next adjacent string, the A string, I have to go down 3 frets for that. And I get the same note as if I start at that E and go up 2 frets like we talked about on the same string. So that's your whole step across strings, and that goes for any sets of adjacent strings from on the A string 12th fret to the D string 9th fret, which is three frets down. Same with the D and the G strings. D 12th fret, G string 9th fret. Now between, again, like with the open strings, between the G and the B strings, it's a little bit different. You have to shift up 1 fret. So you're only basically going down 2 frets at this point. So I'm on the 12th fret G string. My whole step, when I go across strings, is going to be 2 frets down on the B string. So that gives you 2 directions to go to get to that half step, basically. And then back when you get on the high E string and the B string, 12th fret B string, 9th fret E string is your whole step. So, and that goes from anywhere. If I'm on the B string and I'm on, let's say, this 8th fret, then all I have to do is go down 3 frets to the high E string, and I get my whole step move. So, that gives you your visual element. Then the last way we'll discuss this is in fact the ear training element, or the audio way of internalizing that. It's really important to get the feel, play them over and over, get it in your head, be able to hum it, be able to sort of hum it away from the guitar and with the guitar, and just really internalize that interval, so that you start to be able to, once we get to the point where we're creating our own melodies, our own solos and that kind of thing, you are the one who's steering the direction you want to go, rather than letting the guitar and its fretboard and its shapes dictate what you're going to do. So that is my discussion on the whole step. Next time we will get into what would be referred to as a step and a half, or the minor third. So we'll see you next time.